I am resident of Collinwood, Joel Saints for YouTube, joined by my buddy Butch Rosenbalm. Usually we do Westerns. Today I decided, let's talk Superman Legacy. And who better than Butch Rosenbalm? I'm a big Superman fan. Butch, I got to ask you a question. We were talking about reboots, remakes, and so let me ask you this, not about remakes and remakes. Do you want to see Superman's origin story in Superman Legacy?
No. We don't need to see it. As we go over tonight, what's funny, when I asked you, what are we going to talk about? And you were telling me, and I was like, oh, I did that like 3 years ago. I have a movie, not written out, but my ideas for a movie. And you do the origin over the credits.
Yeah.
And, Krypton explodes. We see something fly away. I mean, like it, well, here, let me read you the very first part, okay? Let's see. Movie opens, title card. All credits are blue background with red font. We see Krypton from a distance. Off screen, we hear Jor-El say, "Gentlemen of the Science Council, Krypton is doomed." Yells of negativity and disbelief are heard. Then Krypton explodes, and we see a red and blue spacecraft narrowly escape. Starring whoever. Spacecraft flies away from the scene. More credits. Then we see the craft coming to Earth. Earth's area also from a distance, more credits, and then I'll go into the rest of it. We don't, it's like Thomas and Martha Wayne. We don't need to see an in-depth origin. I don't know if you've ever read Grant Morrison's Utterly Amazing All-Star Superman. He puts Superman's origin in 8 words. Doom Planet, Soul Survivor, Kindly Couple, and I hate to say it, I forget the last 2. And it tells you the origin. We don't need to see Krypton explode. We don't need to see Thomas and Martha die.
Is he related to George A. Romero by any chance?
Grant Morrison?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Because the way he wrote that there, it sounded just like George A. Romero.
But no, we don't need to see any in depth. I mean, if you want to throw it quick, like I just read to you, yeah, great. But no, we've seen it. That was one of my biggest complaints about Man of Steel. I felt like I was watching John Carter on Krypton with Jor-El, and it's just like I don't care. I'm going to see a movie about Superman, not a movie about Jor-El.
Listen, the only way. Sorry if I cut you off.
Okay.
The only way, if you should hear anything about gloom and doom, and it's that long, should either be A, the Titanic, or B, the sinking of the Lusitania. Other than that, no. I'm with you. I saw Man of Steel, and I'm like, oh, there's Krypton. Yeah, it's doomed. I don't give a shit. Like, no offense. Like, I don't. Look, it's one thing for me to watch a historical reenactment of a battle I know the outcome of, but to see maybe how it might be told different in this movie, that's one thing. But
right.
Superman is not that at all. Superman is about a planet we all know is just screwed. It's done. Okay? There's no saving that thing. So I don't need its origin or Superman's again. I really hope they just told. There's only 2 ways you should redo Superman's Legacy. Either to 1, a person who's been in a coma for 7 years, or 2, if they've literally have never, and I mean absolutely never, have seen anything or read anything Superman. Other than that, leave it alone. Leave the origin alone, because everybody knows it by now. It's like that's the one thing when they did the Batman, I applauded them because they did not have his origin. It's like, thank Christ, whoever made that decision, thank you. You deserve a medal. Now, with this,
I understand, as much as I don't like the film Batman versus Superman, the point of showing
Yeah.
Batman's origin, because it ties into that stupid scene with that stupid word that I'm not going to say, and I'm going to ask you to not say, referring to mothers' names. But you know, I think it was my Facebook friend Rob Kelly said, "God forbid we don't get to see the Waynes die again." It's just we don't need to see the Waynes die. I mean, it's one thing like Spider-Man. We need to hear Uncle Ben or someone say, "With great power comes a great responsibility," and then the death guilts him, whatever, encourages him on, and then becomes a big part of it. That's one thing.
Right.
But we don't need to spend hours on. I mean, you can. I used to think the same thing with the Hulk. During the credits, you show the bomb go off and he turns green, and you show headlines like "Army chases the Hulk," "Hulk on the rampage." I don't think you need to go into any great detail about it.
No, I'm with you on that. Okay, so from what I've read about Superman Legacy so far, there is going to be some Justice League members in this movie. So my takeaway from that is that there's going to be a villain who's really, really tough. That's my opinion. I have nothing to back that up other than there's going to be Justice League members. There's one at least confirmed. His
I hadn't heard that.
Huh?
I hadn't heard that was one confirmed.
Yeah, his name's Metamorpho, I think is his name.
Wow, that's pretty obscure.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this: if you pick the villain, who would you A, like to see, and B, who do you think they'll put in as the villain?
Going back to my little treatment here, my villain is a Brainiac.
Oh.
And because we've not seen a big screen Brainiac done properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And in my story, at one point, he captures Superman and examines him and tries to clone him. Brainiac does not know that Superman is a Kryptonian because Krypton exploded.
Yeah.
There's an error in cloning him, and he creates Bizarro. And that's two of my choices because we've never seen those two on the big screen. I would definitely not. Let me stress that again. I would definitely not include Lex Luthor in a big role. In my treatment, I'm mentioning that's it. We don't need to see the Phantom Zone criminals.
No.
I really don't want to see Darkseid because to me, you're one. He's not really a quote just a Superman villain. Sorry, and I don't know. I just bringing in Darkseid to me is trying to out Thanos Marvel, and if you're going to build up to Darkseid, that's fine. I'm personally not that big of a fan of what they've done with Darkseid. So I stick with Brainiac and Bizarro.
I'm going to pick somebody we've only seen once, but not in a movie sense. We saw him in a television series, Krypton. I'm going to pick Lobo.
Oh, the pasty face kiss reject.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Simply because number one, he's got the technology and he can outpunch Superman if he wants to. And number two, he doesn't give a shit. Like if he has to blow up half of Earth to get to Superman, he will. He'll do it just for the hell of it. He's very cocky and arrogant. So, he's somebody who you could use as a middleman to get to the next villain. He could be paid by a Brainiac or a Darkseid to go get Superman or to go collect him or whatever. He's literally, and DC, I know they don't really usually too much deal with middlemen in a sense. They more deal with big bosses. But this would be a first for them. It would be something a little different.
You're right. That would be something different and something we haven't seen before. I didn't get to see all of Krypton.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised at how well Lobo looked, because that's one of those things that can just look horrible.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm personally not a big fan of Lobo, so I would rather the movie did not include him in a major role. I don't want him to be, if he's the if you will, as they used to call it, the first disc boss. When you're playing a video game and you play the first disc, and he's the first boss, and you take that out, and then you put the other disc in, and you got to fight the real boss. I could live with that. I really want them to stay away, and I realize I just said this, but I really want them to stay away from Lex Luthor and the Phantom Zone criminals. We've seen them. We've seen them. We've seen them. Stop it.
Yeah.
Please. Again, if you want to, in the story little thing I wrote, at one point during the credits, we see a headline with Superman. He's got his arm on a bald-headed guy in handcuffs, and the headline on the paper says, "Luthor arrested thanks to Superman," and that's the only time Lex Luthor shows up in my story. Then later you hear Lois Lane say something like, "But there's 3 of them, and they're just as strong as you." So obviously, I'm referring to the Phantom Zone criminals, and then that's it. That's all you see of them. You don't even see them. You just hear her say that.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to look at the Christopher Reeve movies and include the first 2 in the canon, that's fine. I would say, yeah, something like those movies happened.
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly, but yeah, you've got the right idea.
That's the thing that me and Mark Gilman were talking about this a while back ago. Do you need Lex Luthor in a Superman movie? No, you don't. You don't even need to see Lex Luthor. You just know he's there. It's called a building called LexCorp. It's like, that's what gets me. It's like, you don't need to have the Joker in your first Batman movie. You just need to show something that maybe represents the Joker. And again, same thing with Superman and Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor does not need to be shown in the first Superman movie. You could, again, there's a building, LexCorp. You could show it. Oh, Lex Luthor, LexCorp, and that's a beautiful thing they did with the animated series, where Tim Daly voiced Superman. If Lex Luthor was in an episode, he may not have been the sole focus of that episode, but he was there for a purpose, or there because he knew something. But every now and again, they would have him be the main sort of villain of an episode, which was nice. So I think you can have a nice balance for a Superman movie and not have Lex Luthor and just have another villain of Superman's. Now, would I like to see them create new ones? Sure. Why the hell not? But again, ones that can either now, do I want to see another Batman Superman crossover? Sure, but do it right. I wouldn't even mind seeing Batman in this movie if they want to. Again, if they want to, because again, if you're going to have Justice League characters, why not? Now again, I don't know who all they're going to have. I know one. That's it. They've only confirmed one. That may be the only one. Who the hell knows? But they have a lot to play with here. Again, you have Superman and Lois Lane, so Lois Lane is going to be part of a Superman story always. How she's going to be a part of it, is she just going to be the damsel? Is she going to get kidnapped? Obviously, still the damsel. Who knows? Now, could you see now this is crazy, because I thought about this. Could you see them going the route where Joker comes to Metropolis and tries to kill Superman by using kryptonite?
If we were to, I'm personally not a fan of that. If we were to, I would like it to be a short, if you will, side quest.
Yeah.
Like there's I don't know how much you know about DC Comics history. After Crisis on Infinite Earths back in the mid '80s, they relaunched Superman with a writer artist named John Byrne, and I think it's the 7th issue of the relaunch where he meets where the Joker comes to Metropolis.
Yeah.
And he tells Superman, "Oh, I've kidnapped Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, and Perry White, and they're in coffins. They're in lead lined coffins, and if you do anything, they'll die. Blah blah blah." Well, the amusing part of the story is he like flies off, comes right back with them, and he's like, "Wait a minute, how did you do that?" And after they take the Joker away, Superman looks at Lois Lane and she goes, "Well, how did you do that?" And he's like, "It's a common misconception of my X-ray vision. They think I can't see lead. Lead sticks out like a sore thumb, so the three of you were easy to find." And he asks the Joker, he's like, "Why did you come to Metropolis? Why usually you stay in Gotham City, and well, why did you come here?" And he's like, "Why not?" Do that in like a 10, no more than 15-minute thing. I'm good with that. I can go, okay, there you go. Good job. As a major villain, no. I don't, I'm a pretty big Batman fan also. I think you know that. I am sick to death of the damn Joker. Yeah. I think we could go. I like the way they did it in The Batman, where he's in like the movie for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be honest with you. At first, I didn't even know it was the Joker. I didn't realize who it was from the way they had him in Arkham. And it's like, I could go 3 or 4 more movies and not see the Joker in a major role. And I'm good with that. The problem is with these films is they keep picking the same villains because I understand it. It's a safe bet. Everybody knows who Lex Luthor is. Everybody knows who the Phantom Zone criminals are. Everybody knows who the Joker is. I was really excited when they announced who the villain for Batman Begins was going to be. When they announced Ra's al Ghul, who is my personal favorite Batman villain. I didn't like what they did with him in the film, but it's like, oh, thank God. It's Ra's al Ghul and the Scarecrow. Great. We've not seen them before. I don't think they've ever appeared. I know they appeared in animated, but no live action. So the Batman and Superman have such great rogues galleries. There's so many characters to pick up. I don't know if you know who the character, the villain Mongul is. Mongul would be a great villain. He can be, the problem with like Lex Luthor is smart, yes.
Yeah.
But it's hard to show brains versus brawn. Especially, if you're doing a big budget movie, it's like, okay, well, we need to have, I don't want the destruction we saw in Man of Steel, which honestly started giving me 9/11 flashbacks. There was so much destruction in the town. I get that's quote realistic. Excuse me. Right. My problem with realistic is, okay, so you have an alien that looks just like us, that can fly, shoot lasers out of his eye, and lift a battleship. And your realism has to take a little bit of a break for all that to come in. So don't give me 9/11 flashbacks, please.
You know who I'd like to see somehow in this Superman movie in a weird way, if they can do it? Swamp Thing. Somewhere, not as a villain necessarily, but just cameo somehow. I don't know.
What about Alec Holland instead of Swamp Thing?
Why not? He could. That's another person, because he's one of Swamp Thing's arch nemesis, and he's somebody who is as smart as Luthor. And he's, by the way, he's also a master of disguise. He tends to look like other people to get around. So why not?
Yeah. There's just so many villains. I mean, I don't want to see Toyman. I don't want to see any of the prankster. I mean, sure, there's a way you can do it. The Batman was basically Seven, the movie Seven in superheroes. Yeah. I mean, sure, you could do it that way. It's I don't know. I personally don't want to see that. My problem with the Zack Snyder films because they're so horribly cynical. And Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent is arguably the dumbest Jonathan Kent in existence. When he's younger, I understand, him telling him, "Hey, you need to hide your abilities." Blah blah. I don't like that, but I can accept that. But when they have the hurricane scene, and he goes over and basically kills himself for no reason.
Yeah.
So stupid.
And here's the thing, I get where the writers are somewhat trying to go with that, but it's like, look,
they did it.
I think what the writers were trying to do, and I hate to defend this because I'm with you, it wasn't the best idea to kill Jonathan Kent that way. Number one, when you kill off Kevin Costner, you're going to piss a lot of people off. That's number one. Number two, the fact, I think the reason they do it is because he's, from a plot standpoint, Jonathan Kent is telling him, you can't save everybody. And I think that's what he's trying to, in a weird, fucked up way, which is, again, fucked up. It is. It's like, are you out of your mind? Like, bro, I get Jonathan Kent. This is where Superman got his ultimate do-goody from, is Jonathan, in a sense. And that's the message they're giving too in that. And I understand all that. But it's a goddamn dog. Buy him another dog. I love dogs.
As you were just describing that, I came up with a better scene, or at least it's better in my opinion.
Yeah.
Martha is at one end of Smallville. Jonathan's somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, other end. And they're both going to die.
Yeah.
And Clark's like, and then he hears Jonathan Kent say, "Save her."
Yeah.
You can't save everybody, Clark, but you can save your mother.
Yeah. And
he does what his dad says, and he saves her. I don't know. I feel like that's a much better way of doing it.
Yeah,
because that movie is so mired in cynicism. It's just like, oh my god, ugh. Can everybody go take a shower?
Because at this point, with him dying right in front of him, number one, you're sort of hurt. Superman's credibility took a hit to me right there. It's like, Superman's not going to just whatever because you hold up a star. You're like this. Okay, yes, he respects Jonathan Kent, but if he has to reveal himself to save your ass, he's doing it. And that's another thing. Again, when you write that, you got to think, hey, are we sort of hurting Superman's? Yes, you're hurting Superman's credibility.
It's one of the, in my opinion, biggest problems with Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and I'm not sure if he was involved with Justice League. To be truthful with you, I've still never watched all of that. There was a writer involved with both of those, and he was involved with the Nolan Batman trilogy. His name is David S. Goyer. He used to write comics. He wrote the somewhat infamous issue where Superman renounces his American citizenship because he's a citizen of the world, which promptly every other writer just ignored. Yeah. David Goyer has some weird ideas, and I think they end up showing it. I mean, I was really on the fence watching Batman Begins. Yeah. And we got to the point where Batman and Ra's al Ghul are in the big train or whatever, and they have Batman look at him and go, "I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you." Yeah. I literally had to stop myself from getting up and walking out, because that says to me, you don't know who the character of Batman is, and you should never be allowed to write him again. Yeah. And that the Jonathan Kent scene was just about the same thing. It's like I'm with you. I get what you're trying to do. You failed miserably, and somebody needs to just stand up and go, "No, this is stupid."
Right. If when they did that, and think about who the next villain is in the Dark Knight trilogy, it's the Joker. Heath Ledger's Joker does way worse things than Ra's al Ghul. Okay, so you choose to save his ass.
Yeah.
It's like,
but not your former mentor.
right. It's like, come on, bro.
Yeah, that's, in my opinion, and I'm not sure who to suggest, but DC needs a Kevin Feige or Feige, however it's pronounced, someone that knows the comics well, or at least can turn to, I know Denny O'Neil has passed away but I'm going to use him for Batman. He goes, okay, let me run this by Denny O'Neil, and hand him the script. Let him read it and go, okay, no, yes. How about this instead? And get some people that have an idea. I'm not opposed to bringing new people in. Ever great writer of ever comic book, movie, everybody started somewhere. Fresh ideas are good. There's nothing wrong with listening to them. However, especially for Superman, because this is the flagship character of DC. I know Batman's more popular, but I will argue, I will stand on this hill and die on it. Superman is the most important character for DC Comics. If you get this wrong, get it. And they've gotten it wrong quite a few times, in my opinion, and it's disheartening, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't watch, Superman 3 or 4. I just try to ignore that they exist, because it's like, I
think that's the thing too. Like, whoever your villain is, we've said, stay away from Lex Luthor, stay away from the prisoners, but make sure the villain is tough enough to take on Superman and tell a good story in the process. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind seeing, as crazy as this sounds, and instead of using Joker, if you're gonna include the Justice League, which it looks like they are, if let's say Batman already knows Superman, because that would be my takeaway. It's Superman legacy. Let's say Lois Lane and Superman are already a couple. They're already married, right? We don't have to go through the whole rigmarole. And Superman has gone missing. So Lois, she's concerned. No Clark Kent, no Superman. Like, where'd he go? So she goes to Gotham, turns on the Batman light. Here comes Rob. What's wrong? He goes, I can't find Clark. I can't find him. And he goes there. And this would be Batman's first meeting with one Pamela Isley. And Pamela Isley has seduced Superman. No one knows it. By kissing him. You know what I mean? Like, you could do something like that. Now, again, I'm not saying you should, but you could.
I like the thought. I think that would be better for a Justice League movie. And and the reason why I say that, or a Batman and Superman movie, I mean, for once, can we please just call it the right title? World's Finest. It's what's supposed to be called. Anyway, my big problem with it is I don't want to go see a Superman movie where Superman has to be saved. Okay. To me, that's a Batman story.
Yeah.
Because Batman's saving him. So, but I do like your idea. I'm not dismissing that though. It's kind of like, did you say Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
I went to see an Iron Man movie, and suddenly Tony Stark is a spy without the suit. I'm like,
yeah,
I want to do Iron Man.
It felt like a James Bond movie.
I felt like it was trying to be one.
It just 3 went way off the rails. I'm not saying they went off the rails.
Oh, I will.
But I question, because let me tell you what I think happened. I have no proof of this. I think somebody leaked what was going to be the original Iron Man 3 script, which was going to stick more to the comic. But that didn't happen. For whatever reason. I can't prove any of that. I have no source, whatever. That's just my opinion. Because I find it real funny. You know what I mean? That the way Iron Man 3's trailer played was not quite like that movie. And that's awesome.
And I'm not opposed to you giving me something I didn't know I wanted.
Right.
I applaud movies that at least tell the story differently, or I don't know how many times we'll be watching TV or we'll be watching a movie, and I'll look at my wife and I'll go, "This is going to happen. That's going to happen. This is going to happen. That's going to happen," and it'll play out, and it'll be very close to what I just said. And I don't say that to make me sound like a smart guy. It's just after you watch enough movies and TV, you realize. I don't know if maybe sometimes it's lazy writers, or sometimes think, well, we're going to do this better than so and so, and you can see where it's going. And uh, so I applaud when I see something different, and sometimes it's just, excuse me. Sometimes it's there's needs to be a point where I have to tell myself, okay, just shut it off and let's listen to the story they want to tell us, the short story they want to show us. And I think they could have told a somewhat similar story in Iron Man 3 with a modified adaptation of the Demon in a Bottle storyline. And he's like, oh, I can't put the suit on. I'm drunk, and I've lost everything. And I mean, you can tell a very similar story. He just doesn't look like a putz. Because I remember, that scene where he's like, well, you tell the Mandarin I live at blah, 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 and blah, 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 and I'll leave the door open. Well, how'd that work out for you, big boy? Your house is destroyed. I get it. It's a yeah scene, and then we see what happens when you yeah to the wrong person.
There are some superhero movies that are just a mess. There really are.
Thor 2.
Suicide Squad 2. Good cast.
I think Batman Forever is a mess, but that's just me, I guess.
No, Batman Forever is I love me some Val Kilmer, but man, I don't know. I would not have had him play Batman. This is me. Maybe I'm going to go to hell for that one.
No, you're not saying he was the worst Batman ever, Adam West. You're just saying he wasn't very good at it. And in my mind, how do you pick Jim Carrey over Robin Williams to play the Riddler? How do you do that? No one has ever explained that to my satisfaction. I get it. Jim Carrey was kind of hot at the time, but no. Robin Williams in that role, that movie changes, in my opinion, for much better. And I'm not trying to insult Jim Carrey. I don't mean it that way. I just, one guy's sometimes funny and one guy is was amazingly funny all the time. He always made me. Robin Williams always made me laugh, and I think he was so much a better choice.
Let me tell you this, and I don't think everyone says, well, what do you think got Jim Carrey the role? Everyone says In Living Color. Here's a newsflash for people. In Living Color was canceled after 2 seasons because bitches, Mad TV was better. Anyway, true story.
I don't disagree. I loved Mad TV for the first few seasons. I thought it was hilarious. Not that Living Color was bad, but in my opinion, one was much better than the other.
What got Jim the role was Ace Ventura. I mean, he was just when whoever was doing Batman saw that, it's like, how do you? And again, I'm with you. I think Robin Williams should have got the role because Robin Williams was hot too at the time. It's not like he wasn't doing nothing. Hell, he did Good Will Hunting, Mrs. Doubtfire, for God's sakes. Like, the man could act. And that's,
you ever seen, what's it called? Crap. He works in a film processing place. Photo, I think it might be called. The name's escaped me at the moment. Yeah, very movie. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want. There's some really good stuff in that I don't want to ruin.
Yeah, he's really crazy in that movie. I've seen it. I know which one you're talking about. Where he says "smile," and crazy.
And I tell you what else. I would take away Tommy Lee Jones. I know he was hot at the time. I like Tommy Lee Jones in Tommy Lee Jones roles.
Yeah.
Bring back Billy D. Williams.
Yes.
That way you can still tie it into the Michael Keaton movies, because bring back, you've got Michael Gough as Alfred. I think Pat Hingle was still playing Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
So that way it's still part of it, as opposed to feeling completely, totally, and utterly different.
See, when I watch Billy D. Williams, I'm thinking, how the hell did it not get Billy D. Williams to come back? Like, for God's sakes, that man can act. And to me, he is handsome Harvey Dent. I mean, literally up and down.
Yep.
No offense to Aaron Eckhart.
No. I mean, he did. Other than the fact, how did that eye not shrivel up since he couldn't blink, and therefore it should be incredibly dried out? Yeah, I liked his performance.
See, like I want Aaron Eckhart. If they ever do a Silent Hill 2 movie, I want Aaron Eckhart to play James Sunderland, because he looks like goddamn James.
I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Aaron Eckhart play Lex Luthor. I'll say that.
I wouldn't mind that either.
I want him to be the cold hard bastard, like he is in the amusingly enough, the animated series, and in the John Byrne series that I mentioned earlier of Superman. There's a story, I believe it's called 800 Miles. Lex Luthor goes to this little diner, and he has this waitress waiting on him, and he offers her to come live with him for a year, $1 million. And I mean, he's researched her. And he's like, yes, your husband, blah blah blah, your kids, blah blah blah, they'll be taken care of. You just live with me for a year or 6 months. I forget the exact amount of time. And he's like, I'll be waiting in my limo for 10 minutes. And he goes out. And then you see this waitress, and like she calls her husband, and he answers, and she hangs up, and you can see she's like thinking it. Well, then the next scene is the limo leaving, and the driver looks at him and goes, well, sir, you may stay the almost 10 whole minutes this time. And it's just like, oh my God, you bastard. You just ruined this poor woman's marriage for your kicks. It's like, that is a code bastard. And that's what Lex Luthor should be.
I'm with you. Now, did you see the one Superman series where the guy from The Walking Dead played Lex Luthor?
I'm going to go with no.
I'll send you the video when
Okay.
we're done here, where he turns Bizarro into Doomsday. Really, really, really amazing shit. He does a good job. I mean, I don't think he does a bad job. He's the guy who I'm trying to think who he played in The Walking Dead, because his name escapes me. He played the military.
About Superman and Lois?
Yeah.
I'm actually, I watched the first season, and I missed some episodes, didn't get recorded, so I like halfway through season 2. So I know there's more seasons, but that's where I got stopped at. So no, I haven't seen all that, but I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah. He's in it, and he plays Lex Luthor, and he's pretty vicious. I'll say.
And Lex Luthor should be, oh hi, how are you? Really, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And he can interact, and he seems like, a pretty nice guy. And then the minute he's behind closed doors, and then you see the real Lex Luthor, and he's the code bastard I just mentioned. It's like, don't bring that kind of person up here ever again. I will have you and them shot. And he's
if you know who I want to see play Miss Taskmaster, if they do it, Kelly Hu.
Ooh. Are you familiar with the character Mercy from the animated series?
A bit.
In the comics, she's a renegade Amazon.
Oh.
And I think Kelly Hu would make a great Mercy. You know, just here's Wonder Woman's equal, or right, pretty close.
Yeah.
And she's a bodyguard for Lex Luthor. So I mean, right away that tells you she's, this is not your usual Amazon. I just had a thought. I think an interesting to do way to do Lex Luthor if you really wanted to. Are you familiar with Earth 3 and the Crime Syndicate of America?
Not the comic now.
Okay. On back in pre-crisis, you had Earth 1, which was the Silver Age and the Bronze Age, and then you had Earth 2, which was the Golden Age, and Earth 3 was the evil. So the Justice League was the Crime Syndicate. You had an evil Superman named Ultraman. You had an evil Wonder Woman called Superwoman. Batman was Owlman. Flash was Johnny Quick. I think Green Lantern was still Green Lantern. No, he's Power Ring. And eventually they introduced Earth 3's only hero, which is Alexander Luthor. So imagine, okay, if I could do Rod Sterling, imagine, if you will, Superman is, he's standing on top of the Daily Planet, looking around, or he's flying, and he suddenly hears Lex Luthor hollering at him. And, he's like, and he flies down, and he's like, he's holding him up, and he's like, what is it this time, Luthor? And he's like, X-ray me. And he X-rays him, and he's like, the heart is on the other side. Well, I know the heart is really in the center, but the heart's on the other side. It's Alexander Luthor. He's come from Earth 3 because he needs help fighting Ultraman, which is the evil Superman. So you have Superman and Lex Luthor, and Alexander Luthor and Ultraman. Now, admitted, you're going to have a lot of filming because you have the same actors playing Superman and Ultraman and the two Luthors. Yeah. But to me, that because you could get to see the heroic side. And actually, I would even throw a scene in where Superman and Alexander Luthor are working in a lab, and and you even hear him going, God, I wish we could do this in my universe. You get to see the friendship that was hinted at, in the older comics when they were kids.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the, slightly overrated Smallville series, where they're friends at the beginning, and I could live with that as a Lex Luthor as the villain movie. But unless you're doing something interesting like that, again, we don't need Luthor. We don't need the Phantom Zone criminals.
I think Tom Welling, who was in the Smallville series, I think he should return, just not as Superman.
Who has?
He'd make a great Red Hulk.
He'd make a good what?
Red Hulk for Marvel.
I don't know. He was in when the Arrowverse, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, and Black Lightning and Batwoman crossed over when they did their Crisis on Infinite Earths. They brought him and the chick that played Lois Lane, Erica Durant's back. And they went to his Earth. Luthor was going around going to different Earths and killing Superman. And they had brought him back and revealed Luthor shows up with kryptonite, and he's like, "What's that?" "Oh, I gave my powers up when Lois had our daughters." So it was kind of a nice reminder of Smallville. Like I said, I'm not a real big fan of Smallville, but for anyone that was. Though I've heard some people complain, Superman wouldn't give his powers up. It's like, well, this is a different Superman. That's one thing I don't know how you stress it. I'm going to mention conceivably the worst Superman of all time in Nicolas Cage and the Kevin Smith Superman. It's just like, Kevin, have you ever read a Superman comic? Superman doesn't need a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage is a horrible choice to play Superman. And I like Nicolas Cage and I like Kevin Smith. And I'm just wondering, what were you smoking and injecting and freebasing when you came up with this. We don't need Superman is not intended to be relatable. Superman isn't supposed to be a heroic example. Now, can we have relatable moments? Yeah. Going back to Grant Morrison in All-Star Superman, there's a scene where there's this young lady in the comic. She's standing on the top of a building and she's crying. She has a piece of paper and she lets it go. And Superman comes up behind her. He's like, please don't do it, Leslie, or whatever her name is. Your therapist really did get caught in traffic. And, she's like, oh, you don't understand my life. And he's like, your life matters to me. Please don't do it. And he, basically she comes around and she hugs him, and he talks her down. Yeah. There is a Superman. I cannot stress this. Anyone, including you, Joel, anybody that's never read All-Star Superman, read All-Star Superman. Grant Morrison has a better grasp on Superman than the vast majority of the people that wrote his comics. And it's don't watch the animated movie till after you've seen after you've read the books. It's only a 12-issue miniseries. It's pretty easily available. I know it's on it was on Amazon. Please, this is Superman. I don't know. I would either call Grant Morrison or if he's in America, I believe he lives in Scotland. I'd call him. If he's in America, invite him over, sit down, pick his brain for a day, get ideas, listen to him, because this guy knows where it's at. And don't give me Superman needs to go to a psychiatrist. Superman doesn't fit in. He's an alien. Yeah. No, I don't need any of that stuff. No. Pass. Hard pass.
See, it's like, I get humor and stuff in shows. Like, I'll give you an example. There's funny humor in shows like Dragon Ball Z, where Piccolo, who's green as can be, and who's got these pointy ears, he's my favorite Dragon Ball Z character. And Akira Toriyama, that's actually his favorite character, the creator of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And when Vegeta's talking to him, he goes, "You're from the planet Namek." And he's like, "What?" He goes, "What? You didn't think it? What you think that green skin and those pointy ears were from? You think you were from Earth?" And it's funny as shit. It's like that's the thing. Like, I don't mind stuff like that because it's like, really, you thought you were from here? Really? The green skin, the pointy ears, that didn't give away. It's funny the way it's delivered, even in animation. With Superman, you sort of can't deliver that line because he looks like a normal person. And so there needs to, like, if you have Superman go up against somebody from outer space and they think they're from Earth, you can have a funny line like that. But just really, you think you're from here? No.
You think you're from here? Really? How many of the other ones can fly? How many of the other ones can shoot that lasers out of their eyes? Oh, one? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm opposed to humor in films, especially superhero films. It's when you start making fun of the character, which is what I feel like Taika Waititi, or however I'm not trying to be funny. I can't give his name correctly. The guy that directed the last two Thor films. Yeah. Thor 3 was okay. Ragnarok, but the most recent one, Love and Thunder, it was just like, it was like joke fest after joke fest. It reminded me of when Joel Schumacher made Batman 3 and 4, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. And because it was something a little different, a breath of fresh air, the third one was, I was like, yeah, this is great. Let's let him do the next one. And then they do the fourth one, and it's just like, dude, no, you went full crazy. Never go full crazy. It's, I'm a pretty big Thor fan. And I feel like it's making fun of him. I don't mind maybe in the original Christopher Reeve Superman, when he first goes into the thing and changes his costume, and there's that guy go, "Hey man, that's a smart outfit." And he's like, "Thank you," and flies off. Or that may not be the exact terms, but I got no problem with some fun, or just make sure one, it's funny, and two, that it's it's appropriate. You don't have to make fun of your heroes all throughout the film, because you can't understand someone being that selfless and that heroic and just doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
It's like there's a scene in the X-Men where Cyclops goes, "How do I know it's you?" And Wolverine goes, "You're a dick."
And that's even making fun of him a little bit, but he even kind of looks like he kind of rolls his, throws his head back like, But one that fits Wolverine.
Yeah.
The characterization of Cyclops in that film, that kind of fits it. It works without being. It is insulting to Cyclops, yes, but that's what Wolverine would say to Cyclops. I mean, I had no problem with that scene.
That's the thing. Like, you can have comedy in superhero movies. It just can't be. You cannot be completely insulting the superhero to the point it's like, okay, you're sort of deprimenting the character. I think that's the thing too. Like with writers, keep in mind this man is a man of steel. Henry Cavill. I don't blame Henry Cavill for anything that really happened, but I do think that go watch Christopher Reeves and George Reeves. That's how you should somewhat portray Superman, to a degree, to a large degree. And then try to use more practical effects the way 78 did. Don't rely on this CGI nonsense, because some of it just doesn't work. Man of Steel was
a little bit, especially in the flying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. But even I don't know how many episodes you've ever seen of Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. There was comedy in that.
Yeah.
And admitted it was still kind of that 1950s sitcom. Wasn't a sitcom, but kind of silliness. And of course, always end every episode on a laugh. But yeah, it get that. And I was asked once, I've been asked several times, what's my opinion of Henry Cavill? And it's like, I can't tell you because I've not seen him play. I need to see him play in a traditional Superman movie.
Yeah.
I think he had the right look. I think he could have done a good job. And this is going to sound utterly ridiculous, and I'm sure some people will shut off this video after I say this. I have a problem with him playing Superman because he's English. Superman is not English. James Bond is not American. James Bond should never be played by an American. Somewhere in the United Kingdom or even Australia, I can live with those, but not America. Superman should be played by an American.
Now, he was in the remake from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. What did you think there?
Never seen it.
He's pretty good in it. He's pretty good in it.
He's pretty good in everything I've seen. He was in that I think it's called Enola Holmes, where it deals with his Sherlock Holmes's little sister, which never existed in the books. The only problem is like Sherlock Holmes is 8 broad shoulders. Like, dude, you're a little big for Sherlock Holmes. That's all I'm going to say.
Were you taking the steroids early, sir?
Well, what was in that injection you just gave yourself?
Oh my God. I'll say this too. Like, I think the guy that they cast, he looks good. He looks like a Clark Kent Superman type. So I think they have the cast for right now correct. I don't think it's incorrect. Now they could prove me totally wrong.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're just looking at pictures.
And I'll be coming back on here the next time and begging Butch for mercy. But I will say this with the potential of Superman Legacy. Do not, again, don't do a bunch of CGI nonsense unless you absolutely have to have it. Stick to practical effects. And I don't I don't personally want to see Superman and Lois build back up their relationship. That's been done too. Have them already be together for sake. Like I get it. I do. I appreciate their story, but I don't need to see them be, oh hi, I'm Clark Kent. Oh hi, I'm Lois Lane, and she's going off or whatever on her adventure, and he's following her around. I don't need to see them reintroduced again. I know who they are. Just saying.
I will go ahead and tell you from what I've read about Superman Legacy, you're going to be disappointed because this is supposed to be a younger Superman earlier in his career.
Oh wow.
May not see the introduction, but I'm sure they will because they love that scene, and I don't know exactly why. I was much more. I really liked the scene in Batman versus Superman where what's his name that was horribly miscast as Lex Luthor? Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, Clark. I mean, it's like think about this. This is the first time we've seen these two characters that have been around since the late 30s. Now, now over 80 years. This is the first time they've been in a live action movie together.
Yeah. I think the way they met in the Batman Superman crossover, the animated movie, was better. With Tim Daly and the late Kevin Conroy, R.I.P. to him.
Late, great.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the way they came across together, their voices, it clicked, it worked. The story was really well written. Sometimes anime does it better than live action.
And DC, for whatever reason, is so much better at animated than live action. Sometimes it's just like, how can you be really good at one? I mean, I get asked sometimes what my favorite Batman movie is, and usually my spur of the moment answer is Mask of the Phantasm. I'm like, I don't know that one. It's animated. And they'll go, oh, I'm like, no. Go watch. You judge anything.
Yeah, it's really 20 out of 10. That movie is really good. Which isn't wrong. That movie is.
My favorite live action to play the game are for Batman are the first one with Michael Keaton and the most recent one, the Batman with, I can't believe I'm going to say it, Robert Pattinson, who I thought nailed that job. Yeah. I was very impressed with him. Superman, really, the first Christopher Reeve. Yeah. And if you ever watch the Donner cut of Superman 2, and really, I watched the Donner cut of Superman 2, and as far as I'm concerned, that's how the movie was. I can't even remember half of the other because it's just leaps and bounds, pun intended, so much better than the Superman 2 we got.
Sometimes that's the thing with directors; they don't get to release the film they wanted to. This happened with Dan Curtis with Night of Dark Shadows, which is my favorite Dark Shadows movie. And everybody's still hoping for the cut to happen. We all are. So when it can't, I didn't see the Donner cut. I do want to see it though, because everybody keeps recommending it.
I cannot recommend it high enough. It actually retcons the end of Superman 1 because they changed the ending to Superman 1. Yeah. And just, I don't want to say anything more, but once you, I can't say that, but in my mind, once you see it, you'll forget the other one exists.
Oh, no doubt, because with a director's cut, the director, that's the movie the director intended, Richard Donner intended, that never saw the light of day for an audience. And so I don't doubt that at all, because that's usually 99.9%. Like Aliens, the director's cut. That's it. Watch it, and you will forget. Okay, you might not forget it, but you'll like the director's cut better. Just saying. And that's the thing, like too, directors often have, I've talked about this with the original Halloween. Now we'll never see the babysitter murders, but John Carpenter did not get exactly what he wanted to do with Halloween. He wanted to do the whole town. Again, they couldn't do that because of budget. There's a difference there, though. With most movies, you don't get too many budget problems anymore. It's just time consumption. Hey, you're behind. Hey, you're this. So you got to wrap it up. Whatever you have, cut it and send it. And I hope that doesn't happen for this Superman movie. I hope it's smooth. I, again, now what do you think of who's the guy in charge? James Gunn is in it or no?
James Gunn.
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the characters in Guardian of the Galaxy. However, I found all three of them to be entertaining.
Yeah.
I honestly thought when the first one came out, when I finally went to see it, I was like, God, this is going to suck. I knew who all those characters were. I've read comics since the mid '70s, so I had a pretty good idea. And I was just like, oh my God, where's Yondu? Where's Charlie 27? Where's Vance Astro? That's the real Guardians of the Galaxy. But you know what? I was, other than Star Dumbass, I was entertained. And I saw the second one, and it's like, wow, this is pretty good. And I've still not seen the third one. We just haven't. He was involved. I think he wrote the script for the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I know he was somehow involved with it. I may be wrong, but I know he's involved with it. He's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I'll say that. He's willing to take some chances. Metamorpho. How many people know who Metamorpho is? Okay, raise your hand. Okay, sorry, I don't see any of you. I mean, I'm sure somebody watching this will know who Metamorpho is. But it's I'm all for taking some chances, trying some new stuff. Like I said, that can lead to some good stuff. So, I keep seeing on Facebook all these goobers. Well, Shazam 2 failed. Gunn's reign is over. Wonder Woman 84 failed, and Blue Beetle failed, and this failed, and he didn't really have anything to do with those films. I think the first one I think Superman's the first film. I know they're doing Creature Commandos, which I was like, holy cow, that is a deep dig, even for an animated film.
Someone brought the fact up to me that the 1994 Shadow movie received very low reviews, and they were like, how do you feel about that? Well, I think those reviewers were on crack, at the time, and still are, because it's a hell of a movie. It's a great movie. Again, is it the best? Is it the greatest ever? No, but it's very, very, very good if you're a Shadow fan. Now, I'll take the 1940 serial Victor Jory all day long, because that's the most accurate portrayal of the Shadow to date. But the 94 movie is a really, really, really good watch.
I will defer to your knowledge of the Shadow, but I think the biggest problem with that Shadow film, which I agree, I enjoy watching it. I mean, I have it over there in the case. It was what, PG or PG-13 to do a Shadow movie correctly, in my opinion, and you may disagree, and if so, please feel free to explain to me. It has to be R.
I think
we have to see him cutting people down. I mean, my impression of Shadow has always been he's basically the Punisher of the 1930s. That's why you don't have any villains coming back, because it's like, no, you crazy clown. You're not coming back to Gotham City. Bam, bam, bam. See, okay, that one's over.
This is what's difficult, and you're not wrong. Butch is right. And yes, he could get, Butch is right. He can get that framed, by the way. Butch Rosenbalm is correct. with the Shadow, that's the thing. This is not Batman, okay, at all. This is somebody who, when he saves your life, he doesn't want to thank you. You work for this motherfucker now. And, like, he's recruiting your ass. And if you say no, well, you could just go back to whatever the hell you were doing. See you, bye. And that's just it. Like, it's not, this isn't somebody go, oh, thank you, Mr. Shadow. No, 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 no. You will either work for me or you get the fuck out the car. And then there's, if he kills somebody, when he murders a villain, that villain ain't coming back. With Batman, they're coming back. They have the at least potential of coming back. With the Shadow, yeah, he's aiming for the head, and that's it. And he's laughing all the way doing it. The biggest difference between the movie and the serial is the movie, the 94 movie, combines the radio and the pulp. Because in the radio, he was invisible.
Mm-hmm.
In the pulp, he wasn't. He was just a master of darkness. He could sneak around in the dark and you wouldn't even know he was there. That, and he was a master of disguise. He could be the guy next to you, the guy across from you. You wouldn't know. They need to do, if a Shadow movie gets done, it needs to be sort of through his agents. No one knows who the Shadow is. They're trying, hell, some of them, the newest recruit is trying to guess who it is. They're just, and all the people who are working with him are like, don't even try. We've tried for years and haven't even come close. Which was actually done in the Shadow, the Living Shadow. Harry Vincent was trying to figure out who the Shadow is, and one of the other Shadow's agents like, don't even bother. Like, we've tried. And so, and really, the anonymity of not knowing who the Shadow is could save your life too. And when someone asks you, who's the Shadow? You could just say, I don't know. And that's true. You don't. When the Shadow appears in a movie, it needs to be so goddamn terrifying. I need to literally want to piss my pants. And literally, that, like, when the criminals are gathering, they're getting ready, and then they hear this cold laugh, and then they hear the bullet spraying. It's like, holy shit.
You may disagree with this, but I always thought Vincent Price would make a great Shadow.
Oh, he would have.
Imagine that laugh.
Yep.
And he's just blowing these guys to pieces.
Man.
That thought makes like, ooh, yeah, I like that.
Vincent Price would have made a great Shadow and a great Lamont Cranston. Now, Walter B. Gibson, who created the Shadow, and I love him, wanted Ronald Reagan to play the Shadow. Now, granted, Ronald, before he became a president, he was the Gipper. So you understand why you understand his selection, because it was, again, when you think of actors, when someone says, name a top actor, no one's going to name Ronald Reagan unless they're from that era, right?
Right.
That's the thing. So if I say to somebody, well, yeah, Walter B. Gibson wanted Ronald Reagan to play that, they're going to look at me like I'm insane. But because people forget Ronald Reagan was an actor.
There's, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard a rumor pretty much all my life that Ronald Reagan was considered for the role of Rick Blaine in Casablanca, which personally, this hasn't, for anybody gets me wrong, I'm not making a political statement. The thought of Ronald Reagan playing Rick makes me want to vomit, because I can't imagine anybody other than Humphrey Bogart playing that role at that time.
No, I can't either. I mean, it's one thing for like Reagan to play like a detective that Bogart played, because the one detective Bogart played, other actors have played that detective too.
Right.
Now, again, but Rick from Casablanca, no.
Yeah, there's some roles that should never be recast. There's some movies that should never be remade. Casablanca's pretty high on that list, in my opinion. I did read the I'm sorry, in my opinion, crappy novel sequel as time goes by, and it was just like, when I'm reading a novel based on an established property, Casablanca, Star Trek, Star Wars, when I'm reading it and I'm dealing with characters I know, I should hear their voice say these lines.
Yeah.
And as time goes by, it was just like, this does not sound like Rick. This does not sound like Louis. It didn't have the voice. I mean, the in my opinion, the worst Star Trek novels are ones where I'm reading it and I'm like, I can't hear Captain Kirk say this. I can't hear Mr. Spock say this, or whomever. Depending on which version of Star Trek you're dealing with. And so, like I said, you don't. Cosmic should never be remade. Trying to think of a way to tie this back into Superman, and I can't. So I'll toss it to you, Joel.
Yeah. I'm almost done, son. I'm almost done. Give me 1 minute. I don't think I have any more questions for you. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
I really wish James Gunn and some of his people saw this video and would at least listen to our concerns. I think that's probably too much to ask or even hope for. We don't need to see the same stuff as before. And we don't need to see Doomsday, for God's sakes. Please, no. He's right up there with the dark side. It's like, no. You need to save them if you're going to get to that.
I think if we saw Bizarro, my issue with seeing Bizarro or Doomsday now, we saw them in a series. Now, Bizarro Superman, I might not mind because it's not like we've seen him a ton. But again, I think whoever they choose, have it be somebody we haven't seen 100 times.
Right. So I agree.
That's my final message. I have a great selection for you for next Friday, my friend. It is a Western, and it is a horror Western. It is John Carpenter's Vampires.
I was thinking this week, I'm like, we're coming up on October, and I've got one I'm going to slide in on you, and I don't know how you're going to feel. I'm going to tell you it's Ravenous if you've never seen it, so you can be looking for it. I'm not sure where it's available, but kind of horror Westerns, and then I was also thinking Westerns that aren't Westerns.
Yeah.
Like Escape from New York is a Western.
Yeah.
And if you can't see it, well, watch it again. And if you still can't, watch it again.
I own. I'm sure you do too. I own the Blu-ray of Escape from New York. So
I have the limited edition poster over there in the floor. So yeah.
You son of a.
No. Ask my wife. Seriously, I want you to do this. I want you to go on Facebook and ask my wife how much I love Escape from New York.
I'm gonna post it on our top. I'm like, hey, Mrs. Rosenbaum, how much does Butch love Escape from New York?
Oh Lord, let's probably start with oh Lord. John Carpenter's Vampires, but yeah, last time I said I was thinking about Westerns that aren't technically Westerns. So yeah, I'm all for that. I hadn't watched that in a while. I've read some disappointing things about James Woods in the years since then, but he does a great performance in that film. To me, he's totally believable in it.
And one of the Baldwin brothers is in it. They do really good. Also, the villain from Karate Kid 3 plays the head vampire.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, I didn't.
So, gonna be a fun watch for next Friday. Butch, I'll see you at 9:45 next week, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
You too, Jewel. Thanks as always.
Bye, buddy.
See ya.